G'day and welcome to this quick video on how to export SketchUp geometry to Blender. Three main steps to cover here. First of all, make groups. Second of all, export a collada or .dae. We're going to look at the options there. And finally, import it into Blender. Let's get started. Here we can see some geometry I have created for the exercise. And there's three main groups here. There's the approach area, which is a number of surfaces leading up to the area of interest, which is these four surfaces around the central building. Now that building is about 100 meters high, 20 meters floor plan, and that represents a sort of a high-rise building at the middle of my geometry. So let's make some groups. How do we do that? We'll go around and double-click selecting each of these approach surfaces. You'll notice the surface is highlighted bluish and the edges become sort of a bold blue color as well. So I've selected all of those surfaces. Now right click and make group. Once it's a group, we can hide it, and that helps us to see more directly to the area of interest. And we're going to do likewise, select up these four surfaces, make that a group. Now I'm going to lock this one. And the reason for that is I can now do a left drag select and select the building in the middle, and that doesn't select the locked surface underneath. So I'm going to make that a group. Let's give these groups some names. So under the entity information, if you select on one of your groups, you see the solid group. It's on a layer and the name field is blank. Let's put a name in there, and those will come along for the ride into Blender. Let's unlock that group and give that a name. And finally, we'll unhide all, select our approach group and give that a name. So that's making groups, and grouping them up, giving them a name helps to keep the geometry tidy when we import it into Blender. Our next step is to look at the export options. So go File, Export 3D Model, and the Export Model window pops open. We give it a name, we choose a type. Now I'm going to stick to the collada.dae type, and right down here in the bottom right hand side is the options. So we need to select a couple of these. We want export two-sided faces, we want export edges, and we want preserve component hierarchies. Notice that I haven't ticked triangulate all faces, and that's because I don't want all of my surfaces broken up into sub-triangles, and that gets really messy. So that's good to go. Okay, and we can export that file. I'm just going to clobber that one I've created previously. Yes, that is pretty quick because it's a small file, and let's have a look at importing into Blender. So I've opened up Blender here, and under the file, import collada, navigate your way to the file that you've just created, import that, and here we see the geometry. Blender's a little bit different. The right click is the clicking that gives you a select. Left click does something a bit funky. So right clicking on these different components in the geometry, we see a bit of action going on here in the outliner. So here under the SketchUp menu, you can see all of the named groups that we've imported. We've got our approach group, we've got our area of interest, and we've got our building, and these instances, that's just the text that I showed you at the beginning of the video. So there you have it, three quick steps to export your geometry from SketchUp into Blender.